Welcome back, everyone, to the Stogie Geeks Show. We've got Mr. Stogie Santa in studio. Taylor is here with us.
Taylor Hall.
Very special guest. Thank you, Taylor, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. Will Cooper is on the lines via Skype. Coop. As always, Will, this was your topic.
Yes, it was.
For the Debonaire Ideal segment that we're doing this evening. I have a feeling I know where it stems from, but I want to hear you kick it off.
It stemmed from a cigar release, which I'm going to talk about in the Stogie of the Week, called Pickle Juice, in which the cigars came in a pickle jar, or a pickle jar design. And, it kind of got me thinking, when Skip was talking about, cigars going back to the boom, everything was in, cabinet or wrap boxes. And that was kind of always the standard. And now today we have all sorts of boxes, and there was another release that also triggered this, and it was the Avo 90s coming in that phonograph box.
Yes.
So my question to Debonaire Ideal is, what do we think? Are these things Debonaire? Are these things gimmicky? Is there a place for them? I know they probably frustrate retailers to death, but are they good for the consumer? I mean, is really the question.
Well, I think in general, cigar packaging, while you want something that's packaged, so there's different ends of the spectrum. I can get a bundled cigar or in just cellophane that has no band on it. And I don't know, it doesn't affect the flavor or the taste of the cigar, the construction, right? But like as a consumer, I'm not really excited about it. And with no packaging, I tend to lose the cigar in my humor. It's funny, I just lit an unbanded cigar. Now I know where this cigar came from, right? It's an LFD release because it's very distinct shape, right? But had it been a regular Parejo cigar, I'd have no idea what that was. So it needs to stand out in your humidor. But then on the other end of the spectrum, when I get really cool packaging, yeah, it's cool, but I kind of think like I'm paying for that,
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So look at a country like Australia that all you can sell cigars in is plain white packaging. You look at these, it's like anything else. There's a certain element to packaging that is used for differentiation. It's beautiful. It's what gets a conversation started. Like anything else, you go into the craft beer store, you want to pick up the plain blue and white lettered can that says Bud Light, or do you want the one with the giant skull on it that's called Wake Up Dead? It's gimmicky. Do I want a skull on my beer? No, I don't want to be reminded that it's killing me. But it gets a conversation started. I say to the person in my favorite package shop, hey, what's the story with that? And he says, well, this is an imperial stout. You get this, and this. So it's a conversation starter more than anything else.
That's true.
But I think it's an American-driven thing. When I say that, if you look at European cigars, there's not a lot behind that. But there's a shelf life for it. And if you look at it, just not that I'm saying right or wrong. I'm just saying Avo, Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3. So you can gain momentum, but you got to be careful. You can lose it as quickly, no? What do you think, Coop? How do you feel about that?
No, I totally agree.
Yeah,
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with something like that, you have the momentum, but then there's a point, well, maybe I'm going to skip this one because now I've gotten to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because especially with the volume 1 and 2, we did very well. But I'm not going to order it anymore because, again, what's that? I think the two cliches I probably put you can put in the front and the back each way how you want to put that shirt. Don't ask me for Cubans, and on the back I would probably don't ask me what's next.
Right,
Something new. I know it's kind of cliche,
No,
but
you're right.
It truly is. Now, pickle juice from. You got to stand out. It's just like going back to Taylor's point. It really is. If it delivers, it's fine. If it doesn't, it's a one-time buy.
And with the pickle juice, this is the same company that did the finger trap. Am I correct? So I see that as an extension of a branding project. Here we are creating this concept, or here this company is creating a concept of just really cool packaging that relates to things I haven't seen in, it's that nostalgia piece, but there's a concept there. It's a branding image thing.
Well, I think, too, and I think for a lot of companies that do this really unique packaging, it's a one-time deal. It's a one-time shot. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, if you want to come out with a one-time deal, I mean, Tatawahe's done it. There's been almost every company has done the one-time limited run. If you want to put some unique packaging behind that, because let's be frank, like, to keep up with all that packaging over time is going to be really difficult, right?
I
Do
think-
the one-time thing. Do your gimmicky patch. Hey, I tell you what, if your cigar is really good, I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna buy it.
That's
Regardless of packaging, I'm
that's
gonna
the
buy it.
bottom. That's the bottom
Right.
line. And I think there's going to be a limited time with this because I hate to use those 3 letters.
I know.
So get it done.
But Paul, you brought up the Tatuaje monster, the Tatuaje monster pack. I assume is what you were alluding to. No one's ever called that gimmicky, which I find and
Well, it's not just the monsters. Like he did the red and black. We talked about the red and black tubos
I
that he's done.
disagree with that statement, Coop.
He did the pork
Okay.
tenderloin, which
And
came in the
thing with-
tenderloin. He's done a lot of
Think,
projects.
think about the first 3 releases, Coop.
uh-huh.
Everyone was after him. I'm not saying it's losing momentum and gaining momentum.
No.
Do you see it as much?
No, I didn't think it was what the Tatuaje.
Yeah, the monsters.
No, I think with the dress boxes, it's kept the momentum. But I think they've increased production somewhat. And
They're
as a
not as
result-
limited. Yeah, people don't
They're
have
not
to
as
really.
limited. That's
yeah.
why I think
there
that's
you go.
what-
That,
Yeah.
But I was-
see,
but I was
it's a
just
double-edged sword. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't think I think he can come out with dress boxes for the next 10 years, and they'll
Right.
be hunted down.
Right, and you can say that, but what is a limited cigar? I just don't know what it is anymore.
It's
Steve Saka told us every cigar is limited.
Right.
If you think about it.
Yeah, exactly, in its own little way.
Yep.
But
Well, I mean, I guess every cigar. I mean, even the large companies, like you think of Fuente, Padron, Davidoff, their regular production cigars, while they've been around for a long time, over time, you do see them pull sizes out of there.
or
And
you see packaging changes. With
packaging
Camacho,
changes,
it became
yeah.
suddenly much brighter. So
because if you look at it, there's again I'm not saying it's negative or positive. I find Padron is in that. Okay, after a while, Grandma makes a recipe so much, and you get tired of it. And I think you see
Really,
that with
you get
Padron.
tired of smoking Padron No. 9 Maduros?
I thought
26s?
you were going to ask him he gets tired of Grandma's meatloaf.
No,
Yeah.
'Cause I think Grandma would be pretty upset with that.
Fortunately, both of grandmas are gone, but there's a limit to everything. So I think Padron, I see the sales steady. Is that what you want?
Right. No, it's a good point.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm trying to get at? So I think with these companies trying to do something I think there's nothing wrong with stimulating the market somehow, some way. But the bottom line comes up, and I think you and Coop and Taylor, it's the bottom line is the performance of the cigar.
I think still, though, with FDA, I don't want to see that end. I think that the larger companies are going to be able to still produce cigars, obviously, and it's going to depend on the regulation on packaging. If no regulations get passed on packaging, which hopefully that's the best case scenario, I think you're still going to see a limited run that comes out with different packaging. Because I think you're right. They need that to stimulate the market. I think that's very well said.
There's an avenue of creativity that does also breed, in terms of art and stuff. Like, look at what some of the Caldwell stuff's doing right now.
Unbelievable.
Right.
Unbelievable.
with the
Davidoff
artwork,
Art
yeah.
Edition.
You can say what you want to say. I think right now that Coop, that's a great point. Like or dislike, that has nothing to do with it. I don't think there is a more artistic view on packaging right now, and I could be. And please jump in, everybody. Caldwell.
Oh, I agree.
It really is.
Absolutely, and it actually
Well, the
runs-
releases he had with when he was with CLE, those releases were
The Winwoods,
the packaging, the Winwoods, the
I
packaging.
remember that first. Yeah, exactly. And
So to run counter to a point that you made earlier, where you said, when I see something that's packaged like that, am I paying for the packaging? Well, I look at a company like Caldwell, and he's using, or Pete with the pork tenderloin. Butcher paper is significantly
true.
cheaper, so I feel like
true.
occasionally maybe it's
Sometimes
putting
it can
a few
you're right.
extra dollars in my pocket.
Yeah.
I was looking at the my father, the Flor de
What's that?
I messed that thing up all the
Flor
time.
de Antilles
Antilles
And Tias.
and Tias.
Antilles. Thank you, Will. They came with those tubos. You had them in your store.
Right.
It's the most beautiful packaging. Like the box they put them in, and the tubes are just gorgeous to look
but
at.
We talked about that last week. Yeah.
But I'll tell you one, and like it or not, people get angry and some people don't. I'll tell you, there's a person that I think that people overlook when it comes to packaging that does the full force is Nick Perdomo. He comes up with these. He has a wonderful Like it or not, he has a 4-pack, I believe, of different things. And if you look at it, and again, if you look at his packaging, it's got his name here. It's got as a guy. When we get lost on directions, we don't know what direction we'll never ask, right? We're a visual type of human being. And on his packagings, you got Perdomo here. You got Maduro here. You got Maduro, and all you see is Perdomo, and everything's labeled. It's a visual concept. Now with that new Tubo, they put out the packaging, but nothing behind it, to display it. I had to put it in I'm not saying that I think they should took a step more. I had to put it in a humidor.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Nick Perdomo, I think, is an underrated marketing genius.
Oh, he is.
He's a marketing genius.
Well, Avo did a similar thing. They've got a whole display.
Right. You saw that. See,
Yeah.
and here's another one. That's a great point.
Have you seen the Avo displays?
Oh, I got it. Do you see it? I got over there. It's right next to Nick Perdomo. I had a conversation with Brad Sider. He says, we're putting he came out with AJ Fernandez come out with his. He says, why do you think mine sells not as much? Very, very simple. They're comparable cigars, different. I'm not going to say which who's better and whatever, but the concept. It's unbelievable what we put out in Perdomo because a guy comes up, he doesn't like asking questions.
Yeah,
he likes that visual.
Yes.
And that's, I think, what Caldwell's grabbing, the same thing. If you look on his, he has a binder, filler, wrapper, what it's all about. Everything's right there for the asking. Unless you're a geek. You're a geek, you're going to ask questions. This starts a conversation without asking a question. And that's what Nick Perdomo and Caldwell does more than anybody else. That's just my background from different things I see. And those two, to me, stand out more than anybody. And you're right.
The Avo display is pretty impressive.
It's right there. And it has all the visual colors. It just pops.
The colors are, yes.
It pops. And it delivers.
Yeah, it does.
Look at what Camacho did with those boxes. And I'm going to say this, they probably are getting those boxes, I'm guessing, overseas. However, those Camacho boxes are very visual with the colors.
Yeah.
And the kind of the, what is it? I don't want to say, is it an acrylic top?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're sleek, and you can easily, like you said, visually identify what that cigar is.
And that's not Camacho. Who is that?
Davidoff.
That's Davidoff.
I'll do you one
see
better.
What I'm saying?
Look at Fuente. Right. Now, you've carried Fuente in your shop for a long time.
Yeah, right.
And you took some of the Fuentes, kept them in their boxes, which adds a packaging appeal. You put them in a humidor on the front of your store. And tell you what, that thing looks awesome. It makes me want to buy the cigars. I'm like, I want those now.
And that's, I think, to get to Taylor, who was with EPC, I look at La Historia.
I was going to say that.
I'm going to say something. Is a cigar good? Absolutely. Now, whoever, and you can chime in this in a minute, the La Historia, what I think that stands out more than anything on an EPC line is the packaging.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And it tells a story of that cigar
exactly.
on the packaging.
The packaging tells a story. Absolutely.
You know, and I'll tell you what, I truly feel with the EPC cigars, what they got to do, I still think the core brand, and it's still the best one, is Cardinal, and it's left behind because of one thing.
Oh.
The packaging, and I'm not trying to be negative about it.
No,
I think they gotta find a niche for that cigar because that cigar is a great cigar.
Awesome. I buy boxes of those.
Those
I've
things are
always
awesome,
bought boxes
awesome.
of those cigars.
He does. He comes in all the time. That cigar delivers. I think it's one of the best. And when I say value, I never like to say word cheap because cheap on it
value.
The value in that cigar is there's second to none. Second to none. And I think La Historia is a great cigar and everything, but there's a price difference, and there's nothing wrong with that. But why does that pop? Bingo.
And from a manufacturer's perspective, everything has a life cycle. You know that from your background.
Right.
And one of the things that Ernesto has started to incorporate, and can't really talk a whole lot about, but you touched on, is that packaging. It's stimulus extinction. You see it so many times, you get used to it and you forget about it. It's one of the things that we're going to be doing, and you've seen a few other companies doing, Camacho, as they were previously mentioned, updating all the packaging and creating, again, that brand cohesiveness. So you can tell the difference while also keeping that story alive.
Great segment.
Well,
Coop.
and
Great
Taylor,
segment,
since you're here
Coop.
too, I like the Ernesto's humidor packaging too. I think it's great because it looks like a humidor.
It is a humidor.
It functions as a humidor, right? and you open it up, and you can just tell it's very well made. But having those 3 different cigars in there is very intriguing as a consumer. You're like, wait,
And from
there's
a
3 different cigars in there. Like that's really cool.
And from a retailer's perspective, we save him so much shelf space by putting
Right.
3 instead of putting more cigars in a box. There's some manufacturers that'll put boxes of 50 cigars out. As a retailer,
Right.
what do you do with that? How do you display that?
Now, I'm going to throw this. It seems to be a trend. I'll say it in our store. Do you see this, Coop, in North Carolina? I want to get the perspective and down in a different area. Do you see this new type of humor pack where people who don't, quote unquote, not Stogie geeks, you have to cover the whole spectrum? The humor packs and 4-packs, 5-packs, whatever you want to do. Do you see that as more of a selling point done your way? I mean, the cigars, if they're good, and of course, what they are. Do you see that a driving force on your end? Down in,
I see them go.
oh, they don't they?
I see them.
They-
I see
they- I think
Christoph.
that-
Christoph's the other one that comes to mind that's doing that too. And yeah, they go. They're right up at the counter, and they go fast.
Bovid is making a huge Bovita. Sorry.
is making-
Bovita's making huge.
Oh.
We had Charles on the show from Bovita, and
Smart people.
just embedding it in with the manufacturers, allowing them to do something like that. Because you think about it, more casual cigar smoker than all of us on the show, and probably most of us listening, walks into a shop and says, "Well, I'm only going to buy 1 cigar today because I really don't have a way to store it. But if I can buy 4 or 5 cigars, and
Humipack?
the
Bingo.
Humidipack's right there,
It's
it's got a
huge.
Bovita pack in it. Hey, you know what? I'm going to buy 5 of them. That's great.
Yeah, and they
Same.
go. Like I said, I see them go fast at the counter in that jar.
Yeah. And I think what we're doing, since it's a Debonaire short, you talk about packaging. Wow. You talk about
That Debonair logo
Box.
in the whole
and the whole thing. The
yeah.
whole thing. And the whole thing is, like, get back to everyone's original point that we're talking right now, is that the packaging is good. You want it to pop, but it's like a craft beer. A craft beer, I bet you, I see come in the store, numerous, but there's only 2 or 3 that stick. Because why? You got to have that bravado behind the packaging.
It's a conversation starter.
Right, exactly. Yep. Good point. Good conversation, Coop.
Yeah,
Good
and
job.
good segment. I want to wrap it up because
Yep.
we want to get on to our next segment, which is Stogies of the Week. So make sure you stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We're going
Very
to
good
review
point.
all the cigars we've been smoking this week. We'll be right back.
Great segment, Coop.
Thank you.
You got to people pop.
That was a good conversation.